Hello, this is wmpyr here to talk about the infamous Ken Shamrock versus Nasty Boys incident, alright, which supposedly happened a long time ago outside of the ring, where Ken Shamrock got beat up by one of the Nasty Boys, Jerry Sags, alright. A lot of people have a problem believing this story because we're talking about Ken Shamrock, who is a former UFC champion, UFC legend, all right, versus a professional wrestler here. So a lot of people just, there's a lot of controversy going on, and people can't believe it. Some people see it as professional wrestling versus UFC, this kind of thing. And, this is just going to be my take on it. I'm not an expert, all right? So after watching some shoot interviews, all right, this is what I summed up together. Okay, basically, for those of you that didn't know what happened, all three of them were at a bar, hammered. Okay, and Ken Shamrock was there with his friend's girlfriend. Okay, so I guess they were waiting for the friend to show up. And Brian Knobs, one of the members of the Nasty Boys, gropes the girl several times. And basically, Ken Shamrock is, in his point of view, he's being righteous, and he says to him, stop it, right? And at this point, the Nasty Boys, Brian Knobs and Jerry Sags, tell Ken Shamrock, get out of here. And they apparently shoved him in the face, right, with the hand, just like that. And Ken Shamrock flips out. At this point, a really, really huge bouncer bear hugs Ken, takes him into the restroom, and says, chill out. They're going to be kicked out. Just calm down and don't worry about it, right? Ken Shamrock goes back, notices they're gone, but he knows where they're at. So he goes to their hotel room, knocks on the door, and they don't want to let him in. So he kicks the door, rushes in, sees Brian Knobs unconscious, all right, that he was already hammered, so he was out, right? So he goes in, rushes in, and after that he says he doesn't know what happened, all right? And apparently Ken Shamrock gets taken out on a stretcher, ER, and he was beaten really, really badly, all right? He said broken sternum amongst a bunch of other injuries. He said he was hurt really, really bad. Took a long time for him to recover, all right? And basically, according to Ken Shamrock, he said that Jerry Sags hit him in the back of the head with a heavy phone, and he was knocked out. And after that, they gave him the boot, meaning the Nasty Boys just started kicking the crap out of him, right? So that's what he says. So he makes it sound like it was a setup. So he walks into or he didn't walk in, he rushes into the room, and he sees Brian Knobs out, but he was faking it. He implies that. He doesn't say that, all right? And Brian Knobs, in an interview, he says, dude, they carried me into the hotel room because I was already really hammered, and I was out by that time. So I don't know what happened. When I woke up in the morning, I saw the room was a mess. So I asked, did something happen? And that's when I found out. Jerry Sags says that Ken Shamrock came in and he said, no, I didn't use the phone. I used just my bare hands and my 2 feet, and just went to town on Ken Shamrock. That's all. That's what he says, all right? Now, going back to the whole, first of all, UFC versus WWF, or UFC versus professional wrestling, I think is silly, all right? You cannot treat this as it was a sanctioned match. You cannot treat this as a measurement of skill, because, A, they were hammered. They were hammered, all right, depending on the alcohol level, and I don't know what kind of substances were involved, but the Nasty Boys made it sound like there were a lot more substances other than just alcohol. I don't know, but just saying, okay? So you can't treat this as a, like a legitimate fight where you could say Jerry Sags is better than Ken Shamrock as a fighter. You can't say that, all right? Number two, all right, I think Ken Shamrock, at this point, we can say that in his martial arts career, all right, and as a martial artist, this was not one of his shining moments where he was on the martial path, that he was not very Zen-like. I'm not saying that he is not, Budo, way of the warrior type thing. I'm just saying at this night, it was one of his least moments like that, all right, on this particular night, all right. So, you know, that is kind of unfortunate, and in his mind, he was trying to be righteous to protect this girl, but I'm just saying the way he did it, all right, and the probably the situation in itself, you know, being at a bar and being hammered and stuff like that didn't help, you know, that those are negative circumstances that breed this kind of negative scenario here to begin with, you know. It's a lose-lose situation, which I think he discovered, all right. And then point number 3 is that I don't have a problem understanding that Jerry Saggs is a big, tough guy, all right, who has been in street fights before and bar fights and stuff like that, all right, and he's a big dude. He hits hard. That's all there is to it. I don't care if you're a UFC fighter. I don't care if you're, you know, phenomenal wrestler or anybody really, all right. If the guy hits you hard, you're going down, period, all right. If the guy catches you unexpected, all right, the guy gets a lucky shot in, whatever it is, no excuses. If they hit hard, they can knock you out, okay? That's just real life for you. It's brutal, all right? So I think this kind of goes with the whole saying, and because Ken Shamrock got knocked out by this guy, if they fought in the UFC, I believe 10 times out of 10 Ken Shamrock would win, all right? Now, then, you know, anytime, I believe Ken Shamrock would have won 10 times out of 10. But that doesn't mean that this guy cannot knock out Ken Shamrock, all right? I just think in the ring or in an actual sanctioned fight, Ken Shamrock wouldn't give him the chance to do so, or if he did, he'd be able to recover from it because, you know, he's fully aware and conscious and blah, 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 you know? In this kind of scenario, it to me reminds me of the story, not the story of the actual, this also happened long time before, even before this, which was the famous professional wrestler Ricky Dozan versus Kimura. Kimura understood this was going to be a worked match, and basically what happens was judo legend Kimura gets beat up to a pulp on national live TV, or I think it was live at the time, on national TV by Ricky Dozan, all right? Just gets beat up. Basically, it's just same point here. Ricky Dozan, big, strong guy, professional wrestler, you know, entertainment fighter, whatever, you know, it doesn't matter. Big, strong guy, hits hard, okay? And if they had fought in a real match 10 times out of 10, Kimura would have probably beat him 10 times out of 10, way more skilled, you know, knows how to, you know, he knows how to do the prize fighting stuff for real, all right? It doesn't matter. You get clocked by a big, strong guy, you're going to be out, all right? So, you know, so that's just a very harsh lesson there, but, you know, that's just my take on it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and take care.